Hello, good morning, or yeah, I guess it's morning. So I've been working a bit on the app, and yeah, maybe I can kind of demo it. So yeah, I can just add one here in the center. So now I can say like hello. I can still do tags, but I can also uh, do mentions. So when I hit the @ it opens a command palette. And the point here is that this command palette allows you to find people and issues and projects very efficiently. And you can't see it here, but on the right side, there is actually like a preview. So you will kind of see, how do I get to that? Yeah, whatever. So you will actually see the person, their email, maybe other details, like their image, stuff like that. So it's kind of like a preview card. But that's especially interesting for like if you want to reference like an issue, you can actually see more information about the issue. So I kind of like this. And then I can, of course, add this. And this is actually stored now in Firebase or Firestore. And when I click this thing, you can see that we can open up the chat for this to do. So, and it's been really nice working with like the data fetching, using Rask. Like this is it for me. This is definitely how I want to implement or build applications. It's kind of just bringing everything together for me. So I'm really happy about how this works. So yeah, maybe we can go in and actually try to make conversations work. And conversations is really interesting, especially with the mention part. So kind of what I'm thinking here is like you have this to do, and then you can choose to like click it, and you can start talking to someone else about the thing you need to get done. And if you were to like mention an issue in here, a project, whatever, that's actually going to be listed up here. So you can actually go in and you can look at the different issues and projects and stuff like that inside the conversation, which I think is going to be super useful. I guess the question is like, so for example, here I mentioned, well, me. And this is actually also, it's kind of cool how it works. So the way it works now is that there's an actual mentions collection. And whenever things happen in the system, it's going to update this mentions collection. So for example, when a user signs in, it's going to update the mention for that user. When you create an issue and you change that issue state, it's going to update the mentions. And this is not going to like build up forever. Like this is really interesting. Like what if you have like thousands of issues and hundreds of projects and stuff like that? But the point here is that these resources or entities needs to have a specific state to be part of the mentions. And that keeps the mentions rather small, and it's actually going to sync all of them down into the client. So it's going to be insanely snappy. It's going to be an amazing experience. But the system uses triggers in the background to keep that collection up to date. So that's really cool. And the question, like I haven't fully thought out how these conversations should work. What I do know is that a to-do doesn't have a conversation when you create it. It's when you add the first message in the UI here, it's actually going to go and create a conversation and attach that conversation ID to this to-do. Because if you were to mention some other person, they also need a to-do, right? But they should have their own to-do. You shouldn't share a to-do with anyone else. That's the whole point. A to-do is private. It's your personal to-do. You decide when to check it, when to make copies of it, and so on and so on. So making a copy will also have the same conversation ID, right? I guess the first question, kind of to just go through it, like how this is going to work, is so if I mention my name here, that doesn't actually mean, the way I think about it now, that we are creating. So let's imagine I'm Jill now, and I just mentioned Christian. Does that mean that we're going to set up a conversation immediately and notify Christian with a to-do and this conversation? Probably not. There might be other reasons why you mention a person in the actual to-do, but maybe it does make sense that if you write something here, maybe that could be a thing. So if I write something here and you don't mention anyone in here, then it's going to use anyone mentioned in the to-do. But if you haven't mentioned anyone and you start typing and hitting enter, it's going to give you like not an error, but a warning that you haven't like mentioned anyone to run this conversation with. I think that does make sense. So maybe we should go with that first. So maybe the first thing we can do is to replace this text input with the smart editor. It's got a silly name. I think it was an AI that came up with it for Divergent To-Dos. So yeah, but yeah, let's add that smart editor first, and then after we do that, we are going to, well, I'm going to sign in and create another person here so we can, yeah, maybe I should do that first. So let's see here. Application, clear site data. So let's do Jill at example.com. Jill Jellybean marketing. Okay, so when I sign in now, this is really interesting. So what should happen here now, and we can even test this, is that when Jill signs in, which I did now, is that this should update the mentions. So if I go in here now, oh, it didn't. That sucks. Why didn't it do that? Oh, let's check. Oh, that was sad. So users, we do have 2 users. And we do have 2 mentions. It just didn't. Oh, that's it. Why didn't it add created at? Or sorry, updated at. I changed that. Authentication. Oh, maybe I didn't do it here. Oh, sorry. This should be here. Because we didn't. Yeah. That's weird. Okay, we're gonna try pm deploy functions. Well, that's weird. It should have added the updated at field. But maybe now, if I do it now, timestamp, updated now, blah, blah, blah. Cool. If I go back here. Yeah, there we have Jill. Cool. That's the cool thing about Firebase, that everything's like real time. Jill Jellybean. Cool. Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, but it says that I wonder if I can force update. Can I force update functions in Firebase? I do not think it. I think something went wrong and need to force deploy. Okay, in the meantime, let's go in and find where we have. So this is the actual to-do item, but currently the actual chat. So I'm a little bit unsure what to do with this component because it's quite complex. Or it handles a lot of things. It handles like the mention, but it's all tied into the state of the calendar. And I try to kind of separate the calendar into like, okay, let's at least have a weekday component. But those weekday components are also tied into the general state of the calendar. So I'm like, not 100% sure. I'm gonna keep it like this for now, even though it's getting quite big. So, but one thing we can do is we can definitely put the chat interface in a different component, because that chat width. Why is that chat width? Calculate width. Don't I add that to the state immediately? Yeah, exactly. I don't think that needs to be optional. Let's see. Let's try it. Where is it? Chat. Where were we? Yeah, I think this can just be. Oops. The white space trick. Go to decide if it. Oh. Okay, interesting. Okay, let's do that then. Initialize Firebase. Let's remove that. You kind of know that's what's happening. And then I think it's gonna probably deploy both functions, right? Or maybe it doesn't, because we didn't change the actual. Well, let's see what happens. What were we doing? Oh, we were checking if. Yeah, this is still correct. I really love this transition. I do worry though. I know there are people who are very sensitive to transitions. So maybe this isn't that great. Maybe it needs to be different. There's also the fact that you would really only on the current day expand these, except if you were like looking at other conversations, but you wouldn't actually like interact and send messages. So yeah, it's something to discover, but I think it's cool. Updating. Yeah, it's updating. Great. Okay, let's go and try to make and we can just pass in the width for this. Yeah, great. Let's take this. Boop. What should we call this component? To do chat? Yeah, I'm calling it to do conversation. Let's call it to do conversation. Export function to do conversation. It's gonna have some props. That's gonna be width number. I think we're just gonna do this because I know that. Oh, let's rename that to TSX. I mean, I think we're gonna have cool, and then we're gonna do conversation with state.chat with. And that doesn't really, yeah, I think, yeah, because it changes the size. Cool, that's the same. So now we can go in and start playing. Let's close others. Shrink 0. Okay, thank you. So we're not gonna have here, we're actually gonna have the smart editor. Oh, doesn't it need anything? Oh. Available tags. Oh yeah, exactly. Cool. Yeah, that's also something. Yeah, we can fix that later. Let's see. The thing I don't like to spend time on is all like the styling stuff. So could you, well, I just created a component called the to-do conversation component. I replaced the input with a smart editor, but could you please style the container of that smart editor to be like the smart editor we use for creating a new to-do? The only difference is that we should really have like a border around this, so it kind of looks like an input, but it's not an input, it's the smart editor. I hope that made sense. Oh, I'm gonna do a really cool experiment today. I'm looking into how, actually, let's talk about that with Gemini. So I'm gonna do a really cool experiment today. I'm gonna use the Together SDK and also the Code Sandbox SDK. So we have like an inference SDK and we have a sandbox SDK. And I want to create an abstraction over this, like an agent SDK. Like today's thinking on an agent SDK is really just inference, right? But the way I think about it is that an agent needs an environment to run in. So that's why we're also using the Code Sandbox SDK. And the idea here is that we're gonna run the Together SDK as like an agent inside the sandbox. But what this abstracted SDK is going to allow you to do is like, it's going to build its process that runs inside your template. So you basically create a template locally. Sorry if this is confusing, but just hear me out. So the process is the user is going to create a template locally, and they should be able to run a command on this new SDK that builds up the template. And that's gonna basically insert like a process that's like an HTTP server that has an inference endpoint that runs the Together SDK inside the sandbox. And then additionally to that, the user is going to be able to create a folder with tools. And then I have some other custom abstractions that's going to embed those tools into the Together SDK. But the point is that when you use this abstracted SDK, you just like you prompt an agent, but an agent is this inference endpoint inside the sandbox. And that's how you interact with it. what do you think about this idea? Do you have some thoughts on how the API surface could look like for this abstracted SDK? Yeah, just give me your thoughts. Okay. Oh, look at that. Oh, this is beautiful. Huh? Look at that. So the text is currently dark black. Could you put the default text color, please? Yeah, and then we're gonna have placeholder. Oh, type a message. Oh, I guess we have a placeholder. Oh, doesn't it work? Hello there. Oh, why doesn't the mention? Oh, we have to trigger it. Okay, let's see. So calendar, smart editor. That's on submit. This is on mention. Oh, interesting. So what I want to do is I want to make this mention palette. Sorry. I think we're going to use a context for it. So we have a mention palette component, but we need to, yeah. So the way this works is that the smart editor is going to trigger on mention and gives you, it shouldn't really give you the query. It doesn't make any sense. I'm going to change that. But it's giving this callback of like insert mention. But you should also be able to cancel mention. Yeah. So if I were to close the mention palette, that's gonna cancel that mention. Yeah, so yeah, smart editor ref. Yeah, so maybe, oh, you know what they should do instead, which is much better. Insert mention is that we just on mention, we're actually going to get a reference to an API, which has like insert mention, cancel, stuff like that. So basically what we're going to do is pass this smart editor API to, I think we're going to have Claude do this for me. Let's see. Okay, so instead of passing query and insert mention, it's going to give the API ref. And then we're going to have a context for the mention. Mentions context. And maybe even that could, no. Currently I'm loading the mentions with the other data, which I think is fine. Okay, so we're gonna have a mentions context. And that mentions context is basically an API to open. And pass the smart editor API that's going to be used. This is quite complex though. It's like, okay, so you can open the mentions palette, but you have to pass Okay, no, you shouldn't pass that. Okay, this is interesting. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have this context, but what we're gonna do is open it, and then we're gonna give a callback. Like what's gonna happen when you select something, right? And you might not select something. You might hit ESC. Yeah, this is gonna be great. Yeah, and it's basically just gonna have open and is open, right? And the reason we use a context for this is because we need to reach this state everywhere. Okay, you know what? I'm actually going to implement this. So we're going to have mentions context, and it's going to be a very simple context. Create context. Yeah, it's basically going to be, sorry, state, use state is open, false, and then we're going to use view state, and then we're going to add like open. Const open equals it's oh yeah, what about the callback? Okay, it's a little bit more tricky. So we're gonna have a callback here on select. Yeah, we need to store that as well. And we can use state for that, that's fine. As mention or no. Cool. So we're gonna have, let's call it mention callback. Let's see, sorry. On select. On select mention or null. And this is going to be on select mention. So basically what we're going to do here is open true and then state on select equals on select. Nice. And then that's all that happens on open. But what we're also going to do, I think, is that we're going to, I think currently this, sorry, on select, this is the thing that kind of changes it from it brings the focus back into the editor. Yeah, but we can still do that. So what we need to do here, we need to do this, because when you select something, mention, we have to go in and like remove this stuff. So we're going to say state is open, false, state on select. Can set it back to null, and then we're going to do the actual selection. And that's responsible for putting it in wherever it needs to be, set the focus on whatever it needs to set focus on, and all of this stuff. This is going to be nice. So we can just add the mentions context. Like it doesn't depend on anything. So we can just say mentions context inject. And then in the calendar, we're going to use that mentions context. Mentions equals mentions context. We'll use that context, and then we can say, where are you? Mentions is open. We can have an initial query. Like you might want to open it with an initial query. You might want to. But we can change that when we actually get to it. So this is going to be mentions on select. Now the tricky thing is we're going to grab this. Okay, and this is on. Yes, we're not going to have on close anymore. Yeah, it's kind of weird to call it on select. It's very implicit. But then again, you will have to have two different callbacks. And okay. Okay, let's see. So we're gonna just take all of this. Close. Take all of this stuff. Remove that. So we're gonna have mention palette. It's going to have no on clothes. The mention can be null. And the whole thing can be null. Like it might not be there. So what we need to do is props on select. Null. And there's no. Oh yeah. So on click will be props on select. Oh, what's going on? Cool. I think that's fine for now. And then this is heavily simplified. And then in our actual smart editor on mention, we're rather going to say mentions open. And then we're going to check mention. If no mention, so we're not going to do any of this. Yeah, I'm going to change that shortly. Well, let's keep it. So this was if no mention. Yeah, we don't have to do this. Okay, I think we're going to do the opposite. Ugh. If mention, else if. We're going to fix this, but yeah, let's. And then, yeah, we're just going to insert mention. Insert mention. Oh, it doesn't need to return. We could say insert mention, mention. And then we have. This is kind of annoying. Okay, let's just put it in there. If state set timeouts current. Yeah, this is, we're gonna fix this. Okay, let's just do this for now and see if it works. So on mention is not gonna pass the query. It should be passing smart editor editor ref. So it has clear set value, get value, cancel mention, and then insert mention should be there. Yeah, maybe we can do that. Well, it's not smart. Where's smart editor ref? Oh, that's the actual ref. Okay. So we are going to do that. Where did the thing go? Yeah, here it is. On mention, smart editor. Oh, sorry. Didn't I just remove this? Okay. Smart editor API. Yeah, let's call it smart editor API, not smart editor ref. That's more correct. Because that's the ref. Smart editor API, and we're going to insert this, insert mention there instead. So where do we have insert mention? Yeah, so this should be, let's see, query. Oh. Why do we have range? Oh, this kind of sucks. Is mentioning. Because now this mention needs like this range. So we need is mentioning to include the range. We can fix that, but yeah, it wasn't ideal. So where is the API created? It's on props API ref. Okay, I think we should create the API and then we can assign it. We're gonna create the API regardless. So let's just put insert mention here first. Problem is that it needs that range. We're gonna fix that, but we're also gonna fix this. Oh, so this is going to be, oh, look at this. This thing is going to be API. So let's do API. And then actually let's put API. Do we have a reference to, yeah, is mentioning. That's the thing that needs to, why am I coughing? I don't like it. And then we expose that ref, right? Great. The only thing now is we need that range. I think we're gonna do like null, and then where is range is actually a range is well, not, let's call it mentioning range. As range or null. Mentioning range. So this would be if no mentioning range, throw in an error. No reference to a mentioning range. And then we can say mentioning range. So this is the thing that really like inserts the name, right? And then we can say mentioning range is null. And then we can say cancel Oh, was this like that kind of thing? Let's do that. And then or mentioning range. Is range. And then this is going to be API. Oh yeah, this was for the query, since we don't have a query anymore. Yeah, nice. I love this. This is good. I'm happy. So this will be API. Insert mention. And now we can just do API cancel mention. It's quite messy. I just wonder if state.adding to do the index. The point is that this smart editor needs to be on. Yeah. So we should change this. If state.adding to do not equal to ND, we're going to return. And then we don't have to do that thing. We can rather say if no mention, cancel, or we're gonna do that thing and then that other thing. Cool, this is better. So when we open, so we open mentions and then we get a mention, right? And if we're not on the same day, this shouldn't happen, right? But it could happen. If we're not on the same day, we're not going to do anything. I think this is just really I find this to be a little bit weird. It's really to get access to the editor. Oh, but why? Oh, ref current. Oh, it's to get access to the. Oh, interesting. But we can add that to the editor. Let's see, API. We can allow you to focus, right? That's fine. So that would be ref.current focus, like that. And then we just say insert mention, or we could like focus. Yeah, when you insert a mention, it should just focus it, right? Yeah, I think that should be a given. We can still have that focus, that's fine, but where is, so insert mention. So, oh, the range, I believe, mentioning range. Add range. Yeah, how do I focus at the end of a range? Oh, let's look. Oh, new split view. Oh, look at that. That's pretty cool. Reverse? No. Separate views. Ooh, cool. Yeah, let's see what Gemini. Oh, wait, just so we don't forget. What were we doing? This is not supposed to be pinned, by the way. Oh, we were gonna ask Gemini about. Let's ask about that first. If I have a range in JavaScript, can I focus at the end of that range? And then let's see what it said about my idea. This is a genuinely fascinating architectural shift. You're essentially proposing moving the brain to the body. Yeah. Oh, that's such a great insight. In most current agent frameworks, LangChain, the inference loop runs on the client developer machine and reaches out to the body via API calls to execute code. Your proposal inverses. Yeah, this is the whole point. You're packaging the brain together as the K and the tools into the body. Code sandbox and deploy. Latency, state, encapsulation, security. Yeah. To make this abstract feel magical, it needs to handle the heavy lifting of bundling the server and injecting it. Here is how I imagine the developer experience. The directory structure, the user's local template. Yeah, so this is, I need to think about this because this template, what we could do first is just give a template of tools, right? You have a tools folder. And yeah, agent config. No, but maybe that's fine. Yeah, I like this. You have tools and you have agent config. And then if you want to have like a server running there, like a development server and stuff like that, that can also be included. And then define agent, the model. We're going to use Kimi2, blah, blah, blah. And then the build step. Yeah, agent SDK deploy. So I want you to be able to not just deploy. I want you to be able to just build it locally, so you can run it locally. Okay, this is a great overview. By the way, I love your analogy, putting the brain into the body. That's so good. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, so to riff off this, so what I'm intending to do is, as part of this deploy process, it's actually going to build the actual agent and it's going to dynamically import all the files in the tools folder. So I'm thinking about using Vite for this. So as part of deploying, it's also going to build the agent and insert the agent into the template and make sure the agent runs when the sandbox starts. But I also want the ability to be able to just like build the template, not actually deploying it. So maybe we could have two separate things. So you have like a build command, which is just going to build basically the agent and all the setup and everything into the existing template, which should allow you to be able to also test it. And then you have a separate deploy, which basically just deploys the template to the sandbox environment. What do you think? Technically, you cannot focus a range object. You can combine with a selection API. Okay. Okay, so collapse. Oh, would be to the start. Okay, let's just give it the code. This is where I want to set the cursor. at end of range. Let's see. Okay, I have some code here. Could you please help me write the line where I should put the cursor at the end? This is the kind of interaction I really love to have with AIs, by the way. I'm writing the code, but they're helping with specific things. Oh. The element itself has focus. Oh, okay. Space? What the hell is space? Okay, but then we should be able to do that. So that would be, where's the ref.current focus? That should be fine. Okay, let's see if this actually works. By the way, I don't like that. Yeah. Anyways, hello. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, did I change that? No, I don't think I changed that. Okay, let's see if it works here first. Hi, Jill. Oh, that didn't work. Shit, what did I do? Is it because I... Yeah, I think because it blurs it. Oh, fudge, we have to debug that. Smart editor on blur. Blur. Yeah. So handle blur. We should prevent blur. Do we have a blur event? No, we don't have a blur event. What is that? Ugh. So we want to prevent default there. What is this event? Oh, it's a focus event. Okay. Focus event. If what's it called? Smart range, mention range. Dot prevent default return. So we're not gonna... Yeah, but I think if mentioning... I think we can do that for both. Let's see now. There we go. Okay. Hi, Jill Jellybean. How are you? So that would be to do conversation. We're gonna add... Well, we need so this is gonna be nice now. Now we can do the mentions, context, use, and now we can do the same. on mention. So unlike the other one, we're not going to do anything on blur here. API. Oh, sorry. Mentions open. Mention. If no mention, return. Or we're going to say API insert mention. Mention. I think that's it. And then it should just work. Okay. This is awesome. I love this. I love this. And this is gonna bade. Oh, bade. That's a Norwegian word. Not sure where that came from, but this is also just working. The thing I'm very curious about is when this gets more complex. Like I want to handle lists. I want to handle especially code snippets. It's gonna be very similar to... Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. So I'm building this smart editor in JavaScript that, for example, if I use a hash with some text, it's going to convert that into like a tag. If I use like a mention, like an @ sign, it's going to open this command palette and I can insert mentions into the text and so on. I want to extend this to handle things like lists and especially code snippets. It needs to feel super, super smooth. The best editor I found is like Discord and Linear. They have amazing text editors. And I want this to be very similar. Is there any like base JavaScript tool to enable this so I don't have to implement everything myself? Or I got a pretty good start just implementing it myself with the help of AI. So maybe I should just continue doing that to get like the exact experience I want. But yeah, what would you recommend? Okay, while it's doing that, I really want to... Oh. Is implement for edge cases, cursor jumping. TipTap is the industry standard recommendation right now. What is it? A headless wrapper around Prosumer. Prosumer is the most powerful. And hashtags that handle the triggering logic, opening the pop-up and the filtering logic for you. Code blocks. It has excellent support for code blocks with syntax highlighting. No, I do not. Oh, interesting. Notion linear like editor. Mention no Discord. Discord was historically built on Slate.js. Okay, let's take a look at TipTap. I didn't know about this. npm TipTap. Oh, it has its own website even. Yeah, you can even add images and everything. But does it like support? Okay, I think, oh, it has headless. Yeah. Okay, I think we're gonna, I wanna do something. Let's see. No, it still fails to deploy. Oh, what the hell is this music? I am getting this error when I try to deploy my functions. What could the reason be? Yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to put Claude on this and write a document on how we can replace our current smart editor with TipTap, and have the exact same functionality. And then we can extend from that. Oh, what's going on with my computer? Oh, it's working like crazy. Is it Chrome? What's going on? Virtual machine service? What the hell is virtual machines? What the fuck is this? Let's kill it. What the hell? I found that in the wrong Firebase SDK. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, let's try again. So I want you to do a little bit of research. There is this project called TipTap, which is like a text editor. This project currently has an editor called Smart Editor, which is a custom implementation. But I want you to write a markdown file which plans how to migrate our custom implementation to TipTap. But what's important is that we keep the exact same functionality as we have now, but later we can extend that functionality to support like lists and images, and especially syntax highlighting is very important. Please go ahead and write this markdown file. Oops. This is the website. TipTap. Oh, get started. Cool. So we did that. We should be able to deploy our functions now. We have our editor in here. Now we can actually start thinking about conversations. So specifically, what's going to happen if I do hi and hit enter? What's going to happen there is, first of all, it's going to check if I'm actually mentioning any people. And if I don't, you won't be able to like add the conversation. You have to mention someone. That's fine. But let's not care about the, let's do the happy path. So basically what's going to happen here is that it's going to check to see if we already have a conversation tied to this to do. And if we don't have that, we are, so first of all, this to do conversation needs to take a conversation ID that might be there or might not be there. And if it's there, we're going to have a hook that's going to query that thing. We're going to have some loading states. We're going to keep that thing up to date. That's all good. And then we're going to have like these nice chat bubbles. That's going to be awesome. Cool. So maybe that should be the first thing here. It's just like, let's just add a conversation and put some messages in there. Yeah, and we don't care about the notifications and all of that. We're just going to make that happen. Okay. So then we need, oh, nice, it deployed now. Mentions for the win. Wonder how it's doing. Migration plan document based on my research of tip tap and analysis of recurrent. This is the kind of stuff AI is really, really good at. I love it. Okay, conversation. So first of all, we have this Firebase context, which actually has a list of all the collections. So we're gonna have conversations. There's one thing I'm wondering about though, because we're not gonna, the way we're gonna pick up on these mentions is that we're gonna have a trigger that's going to be looking at these messages. So I think I want to talk to Gemini briefly about this. So I'm implementing an app using Firebase, and each organization has conversations, and each conversation has a collection of messages. What I want to do is whenever a new message is created, we need a trigger. And that trigger is going to look at the message to see if you've mentioned someone. And then there's going to be a bunch of different logic related to that. The thing I want to know, though, is that since each message is like nested inside an organization, a conversation, it's nested inside an organization's conversations. Can I still have this general trigger that like picks up any message and looks at it? And is that the most efficient way to do it? Because I'm also thinking that this could happen on the client, right? The client could just look for a mention. It could even identify if that mention has appeared previously, and then the client kind of says, oh, go and notify this person about what's happening, kind of thing. What do you think? It's best to be like a trigger thing. It's just it's going to be running a lot, I think. Yeah, this is like if this were to be like an actual product, it would be a lot of processing. Organization ID and then conversations. So we do have some types for this. So a conversation has an ID, and then we have a message. Let's put that up here, which has an ID, and it has, okay, so this is going to be rich text. And that rich text is going to have text, string, and resources. So that's going to come from the smart editor. Like all of this is going to change, but yeah. Okay, I'm excited for that. Okay, so what we can do now is that we can go in and create a conversation and add that to the to-do. Where's the to-do? We're going to add conversation ID. That's going to be a string. We can add that to the to-do. We can create a hook that downloads the conversation messages. And the reason we don't only just have messages related to a to-do is because well, yeah, I'm not sure anymore. The point was that maybe you want conversations added to other things. Like what if you want private DMs? But I don't like that. The whole point here is that this is going to be very efficient to have a conversation bound to something specific, right? Something you want to have done. So you get this natural like encapsulation of conversations. So it's going to be very efficient. So maybe we should reconsider this. That just a to-do can have a collection of But then if you're going to share these messages, they need to be tied to a shared entity. No, I think we're going to have a conversation. And then we have the messages of the conversation. Currently, it's going to have rich text, which is text and resources. Cool. Let's do a small look at what it thinks about the other stuff. This is a classic architectural decision in Firebase. Centralized reliability, distributed speed. Yeah, here's a breakdown. The server-side trigger. As if you can generate from the, yes, you can. In Firestore, blah, blah, blah. Pros, reliability, this is the biggest factor. If the user's phone dies, loses signal, or the app crashes. Yeah, exactly. You don't need to trust the client. Good point. Cons, latency. There is a slight delay, but this is perfectly fine. Like, these are kind of like notifications 2.2.0. Yeah, and we pay for it, but that's fine. Like, if this is as awesome as I think it is and people agree, they're gonna pay for it, so that's not a big issue. Yeah. Oh, with a twist. Yes, mostly. However, if you're worried about the function running for messages and have no mentions, you can optimize it. Oh. Thank you, Gemini. Costs almost nothing. Yeah, but we can check that. Like, we already have this. Like, if there aren't any resources in there. Yeah, that's great. Oh, execution time is minimal. Oh, it's the execution time you pay for. Okay, cool. I like this. Okay, so we can kind of keep what we have, but let's look at what's for the future here. This document outlines a migration strategy. Custom content editable tip tap base with custom extensions, maintaining feature parity and enabling extensibility. Tag system links, user mentions, autocomplete, shadow text. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, shadow text preview, non-editable elements, imperative. High. Yeah. Usage. Okay, but we can't use React. Okay. But we're not going to use React here. I want this to be, because we're using Rask, right? We're not using React at all. So I'm thinking that it's much better to just implement like the base JavaScript version of this, because this is like element manipulation anyways. That's completely outside what you want to control using JSX. So yeah, please review the document and discard the use of React. Yeah, I find that curious, like why there are like, why even Slate.js, like why have a React wrapper around this? Because you're never gonna render. Yeah, I guess Slate.js is for like you want to actually use React components to render specific parts of the thing. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But when it comes to like just text manipulation, right? It's bullets and images and stuff like that. Why even have React components and syntax highlighting? Like, you don't need React components. It's just text, right? That's the thing. It's a text editor. Why have components, component abstractions on top of that? Yeah, so I think a few things were kind of over abstracted, in my opinion. Let's see. Is it done? Okay, let's go through again. Okay, we're using tip-tap core instead of, yeah. Bold, italic, heading, block quote, history. Foundation, maintain dual. Oh, interesting. Install, create tip-tap editor, command parallel. Core, achieve feature parity with current editor. Exactly. Node extension, store tag text and color. Yeah. What about the shadowing and stuff? Suggestion plugin, same tech as mentions. Trigger on, show dropdown. No, I don't want that. Yeah, I don't want that dropdown thing. I don't like it. Okay, let's just ask it about that. So I see for the tag feature that you suggest using the suggestion feature of TipTap. I don't want dropdowns. I really want to have the shadowing text, like an auto suggestion shadowing text. Is that possible with TipTap? Is it called TipTap? Yeah, TipTap. Okay, cool. Okay, but this seems like something we can do. But for now, this is like a different project. So for now, let's just go in. We're gonna just ask Claude to add. Oh, this is something else we need in our types. Who owns the conversation? So we're gonna have owner user ID. And then for each message, we're gonna have. Yeah, and this is gonna be interesting because who's gonna get access to these conversations? I don't wanna. Yeah, so we're gonna have. How we're gonna do this? So we're gonna have a rule where you, of course, have access to all conversations where you are the owner user ID, but you're also gonna have access to conversations where mentioned user ID, which is going to be a string array, mentioned user ID. Okay, let's ask Gemini about this. Okay, great. This is really helpful. Another question I have is like, each conversation is going to be created by a specific user. So there's going to be like an owner user ID field on the conversation that we're going to query on. But we are going to mention other people. And I'm wondering, how do we kind of give other people access to the same conversation? The way I'm thinking about it now is to have an additional field on the conversation called mentions user IDs or something like that, which is a string array of other user IDs. Does this work well with the Firebase or the Firestore rules? So it's actually able to detect if the authenticated user is either the owner or is part of this array of mentions. Yeah, and this is what I love about this project, is that I've been using Firebase so much, and I've seen how well it scales and how simple the architecture becomes if you just lean into, okay, we're not gonna have a server here. Oh, participant IDs. That's a nice one. Yes, this approach works very well with Firebase, but there's a specific concept you need to understand to make it are not filters. Oh. Yeah, whatever. Always include. It simplifies queries. Oh. Okay, but maybe we should have. Okay, so this is gonna have. Yeah, we're not gonna have a back reference to a conversation, so it's not gonna point back to a to-do ID. Okay, so let's just call it participant IDs. Firestorm have a specific for checking if a user ID exists inside. It is efficient and secure. Here is how the rule would look. Yeah. Yeah, in that thing. The gotcha, the client-side query. This is the most common mistake developers make. Oh. The query must match the rule. On your client, you must query specifically for the array. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, but that's fine. Yeah. Okay, so we have a conversation. It's completely decoupled from its parent. It doesn't matter. This gives us some flexibility. And then we're gonna have participant IDs where you will, when you create the conversation, we're gonna put our own user ID inside it. And then whenever we perform, yeah, this is gonna be interesting. So whenever we write a message, oh yeah, this is tricky. So so we just said that if I go in here and I say hi and I hit enter, oh, there's no on submit, yeah, and I hit enter, how does it know? Oh, but then, yeah, this can happen on the client. This is fine. So when the client creates the first message, it's going to insert its own ID in participants, and it's just going to look at the to-do. Does it have any mentions of a user? And then we're just going to add those as well. And that means that when we create the conversation, yeah, so we need two triggers. We need one trigger for conversation creation, and then we need another one for, you know what? I don't think that's a good idea. I think we're gonna do like Slack. If you mention someone else, it's gonna ask you, do you want to invite this person to the conversation? And then the client updates the conversation. Yeah, updates the conversation, adds the participant, and that's gonna trigger the same conversation trigger. And then we don't have to look at all the messages, right? Yeah. Okay, great. We're gonna do that. Okay, I'm kind of pumped for this. Let's implement it. So we have participant IDs. We have ID. That's all we need. And then we have a message, which is a rich text thing, which has resources. Yeah, this is great. Okay, So first of all, we need a hook, which is going to be use conversation. Export function, use conversation. And we need Firebase here. So we're going to use the Firebase context for that. And then we need, let's see. Yeah, so this is a tiny tricky thing currently, is that I know that you can't really open a conversation without having a user. Yeah, but anyways, let's authentication equals authentication context. I'm going to use that. And then we're going to have yeah, and this is going to be a conversation ID. So we're going to use that conversation and we're going to give it some state. And since this is going to be like a subscription based thing, we are going to, like, we could use, like, we could use async, but it doesn't make quite sense. We're gonna, oh wait, we can use the sync thing I built. Yeah, so use sync query. And this is gonna be if no authentication.user, we're gonna return null, which means that the sync doesn't happen. Or we're gonna return Firebase collections conversations. Yeah, and the interesting thing is that we don't actually want the conversations, we want messages. Conversation messages, organization ID, and conversation ID. Cool, conversations, conversation ID, and then messages. Messages. So this is going to be authentication.user.organization ID, and then we're going to insert conversation ID. But this is just a collection, messages collection. No, but that's fine. Like, yeah, sorry, we can just do that. There is no like query for this. And then the participants thing is going to be the thing that, yeah. Let's see. Let's go in and grab that so we can get that in there. So I need to add another Firestore rule. We're going to have inside organizations, we're going to have conversations. And a conversation has a field called participant IDs. Or, yeah, maybe we should call it participant user IDs. And this is a string array. And we're going to use this to give access to the conversation. So a user can only access a conversation if their authenticated user ID is inside the conversation's participant user IDs array. Yeah, let's change that. I'd like to be super, super explicit about this. Participant user IDs. Like, what kind of ID is it, right? So this is, of course, a conversation ID, but this, like, you don't know. We don't have a concept of participants. Cool. So we get that in place, and then we have return conversation. So this is gonna give us a oh, sorry, this is gonna be, let's rename this. Use conversation messages. This is gonna be messages. I really like how this looks. Okay, cool. So when we have that, we have the conversation messages, and it's fine to just use a hook for this because it's like only one view that looks at the messages. But we need a way to use submit message. Export function, use submit message. So this needs a bit more stuff. Let's go and grab the same thing. And this is gonna have submit message state and then submit message. This is gonna be an action, async action. That's gonna be rich text. And then what we're gonna do here is we need to know yeah, this is the tricky part because we don't know if we have, yeah, use conversation messages. Yeah, we have to change this. So yeah, we actually have to pass in the to do here. Yeah, sorry. Use to do. Yeah, let's rename this. Use to do conversation messages. And this is actually going to be a to do, because what this allows us to do is if or no to do conversation ID. So this allows us to actually create a conversation on the to do, and this is actually just going to run again. Yeah, so let's rename this to use to do conversation messages. And then use submit. Yeah, let's call this conversation message. But the interesting thing is, yeah, I think we're going to do the same. Use submit. Oh, this is going to, yeah, maybe we should put it into the same thing. You know what? Let's just call it use, sorry. Use to do conversation, that's better. Use to do conversation. Conversation, and then we pass in the to do, and here we have the messages, and then we're going to add this thing. Yes. So now we have, let's see, messages is like, I think we should just We don't really care. Well, I guess we do. Okay, let's do use view. Well, we don't even need to use a view here. We're gonna have messages, submit message. Yeah, and then submit message state. We're not going to merge these things. You have a conversation, you have the messages, you get the state of the messages, you have submit message, you get the state of submit message state. Yeah, exactly. I like this. So what we need to know here, this is the thing. So if to do conversation ID, we're going to do one thing, which is basically to just go and create that message. Yeah, I want to go through this. I'm a little bit on overtime here, but I'm pumped. So wait. Oh, okay. Let me see. Once we have the operator, the only difference. Okay, let me see if I can. Cool. Okay, so if we have a conversation ID, we can just create a message. And by just creating the message and applying it, it's gonna run through the, let's see, did it read? It must be an org member and their user. It must be in the conversations participant user IDs array. And it must be included for the new, yes, update delete. Must be an org member. Yeah, this is fine. Yeah, let's deploy BM deploy rules. Cool. So if we have a conversation ID, we need to go and messages collection would be Firebase collections conversation messages. We have our oh yeah. Yeah, no authentication.user throw new error. Have to be authenticated to submit a message. So that would be conversation messages, authentication user dot organization ID, and then to do dot conversation ID. That's the messages collection, and then we're going to create a message. That's going to be message. Oh, did I actually put the IDs in? Yeah, message ID. So this will be const message doc would be, I can't remember how this works. Is it just doc messages collection? I think so. And then we say ID message doc.id, and rich text is rich text. And then we go in and we say await set doc. Oh, it needs to have a date. Created at timestamp. Yeah, I'm not gonna add editing for now, at least. So this would be, yeah, so I guess you want to have like, yeah, we need user ID, of course, on it. So we're gonna have user ID is the actual authentication user. I love that, like everything is at my fingertips. There's something really good about how this is organized. I love it. Message doc, message. Oh, wait, yeah, so this is interesting. So this, yeah, we shouldn't set the actual ID here. Created at, yeah, sorry. So I'm not sure how we're gonna solve this one because we're not gonna set the ID there. Created at is like server timestamp. So it doesn't have the ID. The server timestamp isn't the timestamp. So how to ensure that? Yeah, the typing here is quite awful. There's no type safety on this, and that bothers me quite a bit. Yeah. Though here we don't really need. Is it add doc? Yeah, we can do add doc messages collection. We don't need this. We don't need the ID. Well, do we want to optimistically add it? Yeah, we do. Sorry. Oh, yeah. So one thing we can do, which I did in the other one, sorry, which is going to add some type safety, is that we do message doc ID. We do created that would be timestamp now. We have the rich text. We have the user ID, which is the authentication user ID. And then when we set it, we rather say user ID. This gives like some, and then we're going to do timestamp here. So setting it in Firebase is different from this. But what we can do here now is messages data, and we can just push it because this sync thing is going to handle this. Even if the sync actually gets an add change to the messages, it's going to look for an existing message and it's just going to update it. So it's going to get the actual proper timestamp and all this stuff. I'm currently not dealing with like when these fail to kind of remove that optimistic thing, but yeah, that's fine for now. So this is if we have a conversation ID. So I think we should rather do if no to do conversation ID. We have to go and create a conversation. So we're going to do a conversation. What is conversation? Yeah, created at timestamp. Yeah, we need to add this thing. So that would be conversation. Do we have the conversation messages? No, okay. So that would be conversations collection. Would be Firebase collections, conversations, authentication, user dot organization ID. We're gonna have, yeah. So the question here is, yes, we do need the ID. So that would be conversation doc would be doc conversations collection. So conversation doc, conversation doc, created at timestamp. Yeah, but do we need, I think we only need the ID actually. Yeah, but let's just keep this for now. And then participant user IDs would be authentication user.id. And then we need to await conversation ID would be to do.conversation ID. If no conversation ID, so conversation ID would be conversation doc.id or conversation.id. Well, we could just put it on the, yeah, I think we can, let's try that. I think we can actually just put it on it. So this is the conversation. We're gonna await set doc conversation doc, and then do the same thing here, which is created at server timestamp. We're gonna do participant user IDs would be conversation participant user IDs. This is the same, right? And when we do that, we can actually just go into the to-do and we can add the conversation ID there. Conversation.id. And I don't think we even need okay, like that. Because I want to kind of send these to, I just want to make it optimistic, right? So it's just going to set the conversation. And then I just want to make sure that, and then this is always going to be there. So that's fine. So we're running through this optimistically, but then we have to await creating the conversation before we. Okay, I'm going to ask Gemini about this. So what happens if I were to add, so what would happen if I create the document ID, or I create a document in the client, and then there's a collection under this, there's a collection in this document where I also create a document optimistically in the client. What happens if I set the nested collection document before I set the, like the parent document? Will it still kind of just generate the document correctly? It just won't have any data as I do the nested thing first. But then if I do the actual parent document in parallel, will it then just kind of seamlessly add those properties to that document? Because then I can just run them. Touch versus how it handles it. You can create shell message before the parent kernel. Oh yeah, permission errors unless you handle it. Okay, but it's fine. We're gonna what we're gonna call this. Create conversation would be like void Can I do like this? No, that's not possible. So create conversation would be set doc conversation doc. What are we doing here? We're gonna do sorry. Created at server timestamp, and then participant user IDs is conversation participant. Cool. So we're gonna do this, and then we're just gonna await create conversation. Why did this? Oh, do I have to kind of or undefine? Oh, there we go. Create conversation. So we're gonna have this. So if we don't have a conversation ID, we go through it. We create a conversation optimistically on the client. Yeah, and this step is just for type safety, really. We don't actually store the conversation anywhere. And then we set the conversation ID, and then we lazily create it so that we can go in, set up the message, everything, and then we'll first create the conversation, and then we're gonna go and set the actual message. Cool. So what we want to do now is, yeah, I think I'm going to use Claude to kind of wire this up. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I just added a new hook called use to do conversation. Could you please go into the to do conversation component, use that hook to list messages. And I want you to, and these messages are going to be shown using like rich text. So you need to use the display rich text component from the smart editor. Also, I would like you to implement like bubbles. So I have my own messages on the left, and you can check the owner ID of the message to identify that. And then I also want you to add on submit on the smart editor for creating a new message, so that we'll actually call that when I hit enter on adding a message. It's going to be interesting. Did we have? Yeah, it's user ID, not owner ID, but fine. It should understand it pretty well. Okay, this is gonna be interesting. And what did we conclude on the? Yeah, so we're gonna allow the client to add participant IDs to the conversation. So we're only gonna have triggers on conversations. That's gonna be great. And then the question is like, what's actually gonna happen? So if Jill mentions me in a message, am I going to, like, I need to get a to-do generated for me, but I don't want a copy of Jill's to-do, right? Because Jill maybe like even references me. So it's kind of weird to have a to-do that kind of reflects what Jill wanted to say. It should rather be in the context of why is Jill contacting me. So if Jill has a to-do which is like talk to Christian about this issue, whatever, my to-do should be something like Jill needs help with this issue, or help Jill with this issue, right? And I'm thinking about using AI for this because it's such a tiny little thing. And since this is part of a notification, it doesn't matter that it has some latency. Okay. Message. Wait, message? Where's the messages? Why does it only have ID? That's weird. Oh, I didn't actually add. I need to add that to the sync message. Is it an actual? Yeah. Okay, let's see what's happened. What happens now? So now I didn't actually like include any mentions in the thingy. Oh, what the fuck happened here? Where is it? What did you do? To do conversation. Wait, what? It doesn't. Why am I not seeing the? What did you do? Did you change the calendar? Editor mode. Oh, we have the to-do conversation here. What did you change? Flex 1. Wait, why can't I see it? And it's not even there. That's the weird thing. It's almost like it's not mounted. Oh, there we are. So there's one thing that these AIs don't understand. Is this. You can't return multiple. There can only be one returned render function. So this really messes things up. Oh, and this can't be dynamic. Wait, there has to be a to-do here. Why is this null? Yeah, then we shouldn't mount this at all. So, okay, interesting. Let's fix this. Did it? No, yeah, interesting. Why didn't that error? Oh, where did we go? Conversation. We can't do that. Yeah, so this is fine to do this. The question now is where we use. Okay, so we might not have a to-do selected. But we're rather going to do this, state.expanded to-do. We're always going to send it, or we're not going to display anything. This is a better way to do it. Let's see now. Look at that. Hi there. It actually did add it. That's cool. Is it still there? Oh, we didn't add. Oh, we didn't update the to-do, did we? I think we actually added a conversation, but we didn't add the conversation ID to the actual to-do. That needs to be a transaction. Yeah, conversations. Look at this. Oh, this is so cool. Okay. Conversations. In our use to do conversation. We need to do a transaction here. Transaction. How do I run transaction? Async. Wait, what? Oh, it needs Firebase Firestore. So we want to do how does transaction work? Executes the intends to commit to change apply within the transaction. The promise return. Well, I don't think this really matters. We don't need a transaction. We just want to update both of them. So we have that one, and then we want to do await update doc. So that would be the actual to-do doc. Conversation to-do doc would be, oh my God. How do I reference a doc? Maybe I can add one. Let's ask Gemini. By the way, how do I... So for example, if I want to create a document optimistically in the client, I just use the doc function and I pass it a collection. But what if I want to reference an existing doc? Can I pass a second argument, which is the ID of the document in that collection? Yeah, so we need the columns, to-dos, collection, Firebase, collections, conversations, not conversations, to-dos, like that. What did you... Yes, you have full control over that ID. So collection, organization, messages. Or existing ID. So that would be doc messages. Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So the to-do doc here would be doc to-dos collection to-do.id. And then we're going to say update doc to-do doc with conversation ID, which is conversation.id. And we can do them in parallel, right? So we can do await promise.all. Like that. Yeah, and we don't need this, and we don't need this, and we don't need this. There we go. Create conversation. So creating a conversation, setting. So now it should stick. Yeah, let's try this first. By the way, we should have the... By the way, can you make the conversation bubbles or like the messages bottom aligned so they kind of pop up just above the like message input and then kind of scrolls up? Yeah, you should be able to like edit messages and all that stuff. How does the actual bubbles look like? It's kind of funny, like when you're using these tools, you're not thinking about like how. Yeah, that's also interesting. Like in Slack, you have all messages is just one after the other. Is this the same in linear? Yeah, it's one after the other. I kind of like the left and right aligned thing. Just gives you this visual feedback. Or is it you, or is it someone else? Yeah. Cool. Let's try it now. Hi there. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. So the question now is it still there? Interesting. Oh, insufficient permissions. Oh, interesting. Let's take a quick look. I have to go and do some other stuff. So I'm in there. Was it able to deploy the rules? Yeah. I'm in there. Where the hell are the messages? Oh, I wasn't allowed to add the messages. Oh, so it doesn't actually add the messages. But the to-do probably has the conversation ID now. Which one was this? Is this the one? No. Yeah, conversation ID. Okay, great. So we have the conversation ID, but I wasn't allowed to add the messages. So there seems to be an issue with the rules. I was not able to add the message. I got an insufficient permission, but I'm sure that I added the conversation first. So I should have had permission to add it. Could you check the code in use to do conversation where we actually submit a message and create the conversation first, and then verify the rules? Because I did deploy the rules as well. Don't make any code changes. Just see if you can identify where the issue is. Has no security rules defined. Oh. Oh, okay, perfect. Could you please add that? Can't believe this. We actually have conversations now. So the next, yeah, they're immutable for now. So the next thing I want to do is to have an actual test, like a conversation between two people. But that means we need to deal with the mentions, like participant IDs first, based on mentions in either a to-do or whatever. And we have to generate. We need to add the conversation trigger. So if there's a addition of participant IDs, we need to. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. We need to add AI and stuff. So I think I can do that because that requires me to add some API keys and stuff. So I can get that ready, but yeah, this is gonna be sweet. Okay, let's see if I deploy again. But I really love working on this. So I feel like Rask UI, this deserves to get some attention. It's really awesome to work with. I have no idea how to do that though. Get attention on it. But it deserves it for sure. Oh, I really want. Oh, what's that? Oh, it added empty messages. Okay. Well, let's see if those empty messages are still there. Oh, one of them are. Yeah, sorry. Let's add something. Yeah, let's just delete messages. And again. Hi there. Oh, interesting. It added 2. Oh well, something to figure out. Messages. Oh, there is only one. That's interesting. Oh, could it be something related to the... Oh, I didn't optimistically add... No, I didn't. Okay, well, that's something to figure out then. There's something wrong in the optimistic logic. Oh, fuck. Yeah. Nice. It's working. Oh, I love this. I really, really love this. Cool. That's it for the stream. As I said, the next thing I'm going to do is add OpenAI here, the SDK, so we can implement that trigger to create to-dos on the other places. We need to add a new state to to-dos that they are like generated so that we can handle that in the client so they don't just pop in, like a user has to actively include them in their list. And then, so that's one part of it. And the other part is when I do create that first conversation, we're going to go look at the to-do to find any mentions, or if there's any mentions in the actual message. Like this is just so like that. It's coming together, and it's so easy to like think about this and reason about it and implement. I love this. Great stuff. Yeah, so when that's done, I'm actually able to demo this. Yeah, that's going to be a good moment. Anyways, thanks for following along, and